Hello to all you movie fans out there, and more specifically, fans to the Hunger Games. If you have followed Apocalypse movies here before, you know exactly who I am. If not, my name is Jake Berlin, and I am here today, as the title suggests, to talk a little bit about the Hunger Game news that the author of the beloved book franchise is going to be diving into another series, or at least book for now, that will indeed be a prequel to the Hunger Games story that we know, including Katniss and all those characters that we saw on screen just a number of years ago. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit, spend a little time. Before I get started, I just want to apologize for the non-video factor today. Having a little bit of technical difficulties behind scene, and so I just thought, you know what, get it out there, get a little audio talking, have some fun talking with this one. So yeah, I mean, it came out a few days ago that I believe her name is Suzanne Collins, the author, is going to be writing a prequel novel to the series that we know, and that she's actually already reached a deal with Lionsgate for the story to be told on screen, which, you know, if you know the franchise, if you saw the franchise in theaters, you know that it's a no-brainer. It makes complete sense. It's one of Lionsgate's most successful franchise, if not the most successful franchise that they have. They have John Wick right now, but John Wick made nowhere near as much money as the Hunger Games franchise did. Um, so, you know, right out the gate, obviously, number one, that's the biggest reason why you do this. It's gonna bring butts to the seat. It's gonna get people very, very interested because it is a different story. Because it is going to be set. I think I read somewhere like 64 years before the events with Katniss and Peeta, um, and that's quite a bit of time. And so that's massive. And um, you know, it and you know it just from a perspective of box office, and you know, maybe we don't know the details, but maybe Lionsgate is struggling a little bit behind the scenes. John Wick is a very successful franchise for the kind of money that it has behind it, but overall, what does it really do for the studio? And so that's kind of the biggest factor in this. Um, and you know, maybe Suzanne Collins, she's not writing this for film. She's writing this because she always had a story in mind. That's happened plenty of times before. We've seen it with J.K. Rowling. Um, with both prequel and sequels. We're seeing it with Game of Thrones. You know, the prequel to Game of Thrones just started filming yesterday, and so it's happening everywhere. Obviously, the Star Wars franchise has been doing it for years, and you know, Marvel has done some prequels as well, and so it makes complete sense. And over the last 10 years or so, this is one of the most profitable franchises ever made, and so from that perspective, they nail it on the head that it just makes complete sense in every way possible. Now, creatively, this is where it gets interesting because for fans of the books of the, let's just call it, you know, story one, the basic story A that we've had, that we saw made to movies, um, a lot of book fans criticized the movies for not going too dark or not too violent or heavy in what the books really show compared to what the movies are going to show. And so, from one perspective, yes, I understand Lionsgate has to kind of protect the IP and make sure that butts get in the seats, and it paid off in a big way, and more than the normal people were able to see it if this movie was rated R or if it was like a hard PG-13, because you can get away with it quite a bit these days. But this is where the prequel becomes very interesting because let's say it is set 60 plus years into the past, and that rules out showing Haymitch, Woody Harrelson's character, right? Showing his event in the Hunger Games. That rules out Finnick. That rules out Gloss, the character played by Alan Ritchson. Um, it rules out a lot of factors that we saw in the series that we know, which leads only really one kind of answer to this. They're going to show the first ever Hunger Games. They're going to show what it was really like in that world when the decision was made to create this event, how they selected the process. Was it by random votes? You know, was there an age range back then? How was it decided between the different levels of community? And I forget the name of it off the top of my head. If you know it, comment down below. Let me know. Sections of the world. I don't know what they're called at the time, but uh, So it overall it just makes sense. It completely makes sense to do this, and because and I mentioned it before Game of Thrones during the prequel, throughout that entire series, there has been drops and tidbits and Easter eggs as far as like stuff in the past and stuff with the Targaryens and the making of the White Walkers and all that type of stuff. This franchise is littered with just as much stuff that has gone on in the past that has not only lit up the eyes of fans, but got others interested in kind of the story that was told before this. Because obviously everything has something that comes before it, and these weren't the first ever Hunger Games, right? These were the last ever Hunger Games, the ones that ended it all, the ones that kind of broke the back to the system. But how did we get there? And so um, it just I've said it multiple times. It makes sense. Like there's no other way around this. I know for me personally, I didn't read the books. I've always wanted to read the books. I didn't read them while the movies were out because I wanted to separate the two, and I will get back to them at some point. I plan on reading them. Eventually, I'm kind of diving into the Game of Thrones stuff now that that is over, um, and maybe this prequel gets me in to read them. But um, it just when the book and I kind of lost my train of thought there. Excuse me. But when the books tell this type of story and they're that as popular as they are, and then they're told on screen like they are. I remember going to see these movies and the buzz being absolutely crazy for these movies. And I didn't see the first one opening night. I remember specifically, I did not see it opening night. I didn't really know what it was, right? It was kind of the first of this. Only really the book fans knew what this was kind of going to be about. Obviously, there's a little bit of buzz because of the book, but I had no idea personally. But I became a fan almost immediately, and I really loved what they were doing with it. That it changed directors out of the first one. And Catching Fire, the second movie, is my ultimate favorite for one specific reason. The entire time is spent in the arena. It is all about the Hunger Games. There's no politics. There's no beating around the bush. I really enjoyed the first one. I like the training aspect of it. Obviously, you have to do that because you have to be able to introduce this world to the audience. But Catching Fire is by far the best of the four, specifically because it is the Hunger Games. It is all about that event. Everything takes place inside that arena. And I liked both Mockingjays. They were cool. The second one kind of was okay. Um, but I think that if they were with this new prequel, I think they should really take a shot. Now that they've done four movies and they were extremely successful, and you're going to have people that come and see these, those people that saw those movies are going to be a little bit older now. I think you really take a shot here and get a little bit more gritty, a little bit more dark, maybe even a little bit more violent. Um, because when you think of the Hunger Games, like these are kids essentially killing each other. Adults, obviously, there's an age range, but they're essentially killing each other. Show that. Really dive into that. Get a director who can really capture that on screen in ways that doesn't show it, visually with like blood and arrows through the neck or whatever it may be, but really show the violence and the grittiness and almost like the horrific sadness of this event, especially if it ends up being the first one, because this is the first time it's ever going to happen. Is it uh, is it shown around the world on television screens like the old ones are from like the Katniss and the Peeta and those ones? Like, are they shown on screen, or is there a total different vibe to it? That's what gets me so interested because it's set so far in the past. It's 6 decades, if that time does in fact be right. It's set 6 decades in the past. You can do so much with it, and because she's basically writing it as a book right now, like it's going to be released next spring, 2020. And so that book is essentially a script for the film. That's basically what's happening here. That's exactly what J.K. Rowling is basically doing for the Fantastic Beasts franchise. And so if she writes this book like the Hunger Games books, and from what I've heard, really show that on screen. That's what we want now. Like we've seen the PG-13 version of these movies, right? And there, don't get me wrong, there's some dark moments in those movies. but stick to those dark moments through the entire thing. That's what I want to see personally. I don't know what you guys want to see. I don't know what the world wants to see. I don't know what Lionsgate wants. If Lionsgate, if they want to make money, they're probably going to stick to the tone and the feel of the other Hunger Games franchise. But I would not be, I would be very happy to see them kind of take it in a different direction because it already is a known brand. It's a huge franchise. It's ginormous. It's going to make a ton of money no matter what. And we got Deadpool after the Hunger Games movies. That was rated R. Logan, rated R. They saw what kind of money those movies made. Hopefully, and John Wick, another IP of theirs. John Wick makes a crap load of money for the budget that it has, and it's rated R. It's exactly what it should be. Same with the other two franchises that I mentioned. Why not take this to the next step and kind of show that? Because being the first version of this, the first ever event on the Hunger Games in this world, it could get really messy. And I would love to see that taken on screen. Again, it's going to follow the book. I don't know what Suzanne Collins has in store for us, but I would be very interested to see this franchise take a different turn and show something completely different that we haven't seen before. I would love to see stories of Haymitch and Finnick and those characters because, you know, I really enjoyed the characters of Finnick and Haymitch specifically. I thought Woody Harrelson, you know, he served the purpose for the role, but I would have loved to see him in some type of different role. Maybe a younger version of him, whether it's, you know, with VFX or get a younger actor to play him. I think Sam Claflin is also great as Finnick. That character was so different compared to other characters around him, and he was also a really big badass with that trident and everything. I would love to see his Hunger Games. Maybe that's down the line somewhere, because honestly, this franchise has legs. It has legs for days, and they can really tell different stories, almost, you know, spin-offs in a way about these different characters, which would be really cool. And it would be different every time because they're all different. They're all very, very different games. And so, but to start, they're doing a prequel, which is very exciting. It's going to be set way in the past, more than likely the first ever Hunger Games. And so it should be very, very interesting. For now, those are my thoughts on the news of the prequel to the Hunger Games. We will not be seeing Jennifer Lawrence's Katniss or Josh Hutcherson's Peeta. We will not be seeing them around. This is set way, way in the past, which leaves us very intrigued and exciting, specifically me. So, you know, leave some thoughts down in the comments. Love to hear from you guys. This is going to be very interesting going forward. We're going to hear a lot of this going forward. The book does come out next year, and we don't know if they're going to be waiting for that or not. I imagine Lionsgate's going to want to get going on this pretty quickly because it is a huge franchise, and the more, the merrier. So, again, I am Jake Berlin. This is Apocaflix Movies. Leave some comments down below. I would love to hear from you guys. Hit that subscribe button. As always, can't thank you guys enough for that. Make sure you check us out on iTunes. Most of our big podcasts are up on there, including The Movie Show, Padawan, and some spoiler discussions. And then make sure you check out Instagram as well. We started Instagram for some more stuff, kind of clips and showcasing some new things we're doing. And so check that out. Again, this is Apocaflix. Hit that subscribe button. We appreciate the support. I am Jake. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you guys next time.
Hey everyone, Jacob Bartley here. Thanks for watching. If you want to check out something similar from Apocaflix Movies, click this video up here. You want something a little bit different? Check out this video down here. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to Apocaflix Movies and let us know your thoughts in the comments section. We always love to hear from you. Thanks for watching.